included Colleton County administration to respond to the ongoing threat to our community. So let's get to a few of the questions that we have here. If you want to submit one, if you're watching online, you want to submit one, you can go to colletonfire.com/question. That's singular without the S. So colletonfire.com/question. You can submit a question and we'll address it. So the first one is, will law enforcement conduct traffic stops?
Merely being on the road is not probable cause for a traffic stop. Traffic stops will be conducted for probable cause for violations. An officer may ask you on one of the other approved activities, tell them that. There's no paperwork that is required to show that you were doing these things.
Thanks, Sheriff. So the next one, stay at home order. So golf courses and driving ranges social distancing. Courses in South Carolina have taken steps to help with safety, such as offering one-rider golf carts. So the next question is, can I be out around 7 a.m. and be back home at 5 p.m.? So I think this speaks to the curfew question.
Activities. You may have seen news that other jurisdictions have enacted such restrictions. There are no such restrictions in place in Colleton County, nor are there any discussions about them at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, burning trash is prohibited by DHEC. Only yard debris, vegetative type of materials are allowed to be burned to begin with. The State Forestry Commission has enacted a burning ban, which is indefinite, and that's going to be in place until they lift it, which could be the end of the COVID crisis.
Thank you. The virus be spread if the person making the food has COVID-19, or could it be spread to the customer? The CDC says that there is no evidence to support transmission of COVID-19 associated with food. Of course, they recommend before preparing or eating food, it's important to always wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds for general food safety. Throughout the day, wash your hands after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing, or going to the restroom. It may be possible that a person can get COVID-19 by touching a surface or object that has the virus on it, and then touching their own mouth, nose, or possibly their eyes. But this is not thought to be the main way the virus spreads. In general, because of poor survivability of these coronaviruses on surfaces, there is likely very low risk of spread from food products or packaging that are shipped over a period of days or weeks at ambient refrigerated or frozen temperatures. You should always handle and prepare food safely, including keeping raw meat separate from other foods, refrigerating perishable foods, and cooking meat to the right temperature, etc. So the next question is, I think you've already addressed it, but it's probably worth reiterating because we get calls on it a lot. Does Colleton County have a curfew? So,
And again, no.
Will I get a fine if I leave my house? Sheriff, what is that?
Specifically for leaving your house, no. Again, per the order, you are encouraged not to leave your house or leave your property unless you are carrying out one of the essential activities that's spelled out in the governor's order.
The next one is a very popular question. Can I go fishing? So, Sheriff.
Sure, and I will, at this time, we get a lot of questions about fishing and what places are open and so forth, and I will refer everybody to the Department of Natural Resources website, which is dnr.sc.gov. They keep an up-to-date list at that location of all the fishing regulations, what closures are, and what other rules and questions you might have. Repeating that, all public boat landings are closed. There are, I believe, 15 in this county, and they're closed in other counties as well. That's a statewide order. our deputies have been putting up signs at those boat landings to educate people about this. Fishing itself is not banned. You can fish from the banks. Of course, you want to make sure that you're fishing on property that you have permission to be at, or it's in a public area, not a boat landing. You can also fish from the water if you are launching from a private dock, or if you are a commercial fisherman.
Right. So the next question is, where in Colleton County can I get tested for COVID-19? And that's a popular question that we get. At this time, the CDC and DX is only recommend not be seeking a test unless you're symptomatic, unless you have a fever, unless you have a cough or shortness of breath. And then you have it processed through DX Public Health Laboratory or a private lab, and then have the results returned. The next question is, I'm not certain if my business is considered an essential business. Where can I find this information? That's an excellent question. It's one that we've gotten several times. The email address and phone number are listed on the county's website. It's colletoncounty.org/coronavirus in the list of press releases there. But I'll read it out. And the phone number is 803-734-2873. And the email address is covid19sc@sccommerce.com. So it's the Commerce Department that determines essential businesses versus non-essential. And if you have any doubt of whether your business is essential or not essential, either email them or call them, and they can answer that question. The next question is, why are some non-essential businesses still operating even though they have been ordered to close? For example, Southern Beauty on Robertson Boulevard is still open and has been, and how will our authorities address this issue? This unfortunately encourages some residents to still go out for unnecessary things. So, Chief Martin, you want to address that?
Yes, the governor has mandated which businesses can remain open and which ones can't. I can tell you that we've checked on complaints. We've investigated every complaint we've had of businesses being open when they shouldn't have. Some of those complaints are justified. We have checked on a business like that on Bell's Highway. I'm not sure whether that's the same one or not, but we have checked on those. Some of those complaints, like I said, are justified. Most of them are honest mistakes where people don't understand exactly what they can and can't do. We've given them information and they fix the issue on their own. And since everybody we've dealt with, once we brought it to their attention, they corrected what they were doing. We have not issued any summons at this time. And just like David said earlier, any questions or anything concerning that, if you want to ask us, we'll try to help you, or you can contact the South Carolina Department of Commerce, and they should be able to clarify that for you.
Okay. It's not cut and dry. I mean, we talked about one earlier this week that was a business that was deemed non-essential by the governor's order, but because they sold a particular product in their business, they talked to the SC Commerce folks and they were deemed essential, so they were able to stay open because they sold what they considered essential products. So certainly, if you have any doubt, again, I refer you back to that email address or phone number, that covid19sc@sccommerce.com, or the phone number 803-734-2873. The next question is, can you address the litter of masks and
People are taking proactive steps to protect themselves. We've asked, and we would hope that people would dispose of masks and gloves properly. We have checked businesses. We've checked Vilo and a couple of other of the larger retail stores, and I do know what they're talking about, but we've gone and checked at later times, and they've cleaned up, so they are cleaning their parking lot and everything. May not be as regularly as the person asking the question would have liked, or they may have come at a time when it was a little worse than usual, but they are cleaning their parking lots on a regular basis.
Okay. And the next question is, can you address people taking multiple family members grocery shopping with them? And Chief Mark will give you that one.
We encourage people to be smart and proactive with their safety procedures and just like social distancing or limiting your exposure to any virus. But there will be times when you're tasked with people. Maybe it's a single mother and she's got a child or children that she has to keep up with, so she's not going to leave them in the car, so she has to bring them in the grocery store. A lot of people, because of family members, whatever, have to keep up with vulnerable adults, and you can't leave those people in the car by themselves either, so you'll take them in with you. One of the things to remember is that multiple family members in a store is a recommendation, it's not a mandate. But the best thing you can do is just limit your exposure by being around other people, by wearing gloves, staying out of crowds, that type. Just limit your exposure to it.
The next question is, I have underlying health conditions and my employer certainly those with anybody that has an underlying condition needs to take steps to protect themselves. And the CDC defines any high-risk conditions as people 65 years and older, people with chronic lung disease, moderate to severe asthma, people who have serious heart conditions, people who are immunocompromised, people with severe obesity, people with diabetes, people with chronic kidney disease undergoing dialysis, and people with liver disease. So any of those folks that still have to go out for whatever reason, whether they're going to the store, whether they're going to work, they need to take extra steps to protect themselves. And that may be wearing one of the homemade masks that you've seen. DEC has some videos on that. And above all, washing your hands. And I know everybody is probably tired of hearing, wash your hands, but that is really important to try to prevent the disease spread, particularly if you have any high-risk conditions, such as the ones we listed here. So the next question is, will the liquor store stay open?
That were non-essential, meaning they would be the ones that were closed, and liquor stores are not on that list, so they will remain open. They have a right to do so.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, are we allowed to fish from the banks and boat landings? Sheriff, you want to?
Sure, and I want to refer everybody for your questions as they come up to Department of Natural Resources website again, dnr.sc.gov. And the question was for public boat landings as well as docks?
From the banks and boat landings.
Okay. The banks are allowed, and again, as long as you are on property, you have permission to be on or a right of. Again, you're going to need appropriate licenses and so forth, but you cannot fish at the boat landings. Boat landings are closed to public access, as in this county as well as statewide.
The next question is, what is the truth when it comes to these ordinances as to when we must be in our houses and locked down? So I think you've addressed it. It's probably going to come.
I'll go ahead and repeat it again. There is no curfew that limits what time you can go out of your house to do these approved activities. Some jurisdictions nationally, and I think a few municipalities statewide do have such restrictions. There are no such curfew restrictions, time limitations in Colleton County, nor are there discussions at this time to implement them.
So it sounds like the next question, can I go out around 8 p.m. to feed my cats? That's acceptable.
I believe under the rules here that would be allowable at this time, yes.
Okay, can you crab at Bear Island is the next question. So,
and I looked at this, I don't see where Bear Island specifically has been closed according to DNR's website. So I don't know of any restrictions there. Again, all licensing and everything else would apply. If you have any questions, again, refer them to the Department of Natural Resources. Their website, again, dnr.sc.gov.
The next question is COVID-19 something you can get more than once? And I don't know that anybody in this room has the answer to that. I know we've listened to the CDC and the president's doctors discuss it. I think we're all assuming it's similar to any other virus, that you build up antibodies once you get the virus, and then it would prevent you from getting it again, or at least minimize the effects of it if you were to get it again. But I don't know that we can answer that in this room. The next question is, what is the current number of confirmed cases in Colleton County? So DEA does not update their case numbers until 4. Some discrepancies between the zip code sometimes and the total current cases, and to be fair to ZHEC, they're trying to keep up with current confirmed and the current number, because they may have already recovered from the disease, so they wouldn't be counted in the current number. But yesterday there were 12 cases, and today we expect that number to be higher. So the next question is, I have a business meeting that I need to meet someone in person. Where outside can I meet them? Sheriff, you want to take that?
I'm sorry, can you hear it one more time?
I have a business meeting that I need to meet someone in person. Where outside can I meet them?
I think as long as you're meeting somebody in public and you're observing social distancing, keeping your distance, doing everything you can to protect you for business reasons, you could meet in a public area for that, as long as it's not somewhere you have restrictions to be. Just again, we advise caution if you have to meet for those reasons.
The next question, very similar. Can I go for a drive if I don't get out of my vehicle?
But we encourage everybody to only leave their house for reasons. Recreation is listed as a reason. In terms of the legality as to whether or not that would be that would qualify, I'm not sure. I would not expect to be stopped just simply for driving, though. As we went over earlier, that's not probable cause to stop you. We just ask, again, you keep those restrictions in mind if you do decide to go out and go somewhere.
The next question is, Dogwood Hills Golf Course open? It is, and I think we covered that in a previous question. The golf courses and driving range were not businesses that were prohibited under the governor's orders. So you can play, the course remains open as long as you practice social distancing. So I think that answers that. So the next question is, how are y'all able to discern who is out getting essential items or taking care of family members from those just out shopping because they are bored? I'll give it to one of y'all, or chief or sheriff, or whichever one.
That's not a distinction that we're necessarily making this time. If there's a specific complaint about something, we're going to handle it on a case-by-case basis. But we're not going out and interviewing people about their shopping requirements or why they're out shopping. Most of the businesses that are open have some sort of justification by the governor's office that they do sell essential items. We just encourage everybody, every individual, to take personal responsibility for their own interactions with other people to protect themselves.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, what about people throwing their pets away because they think they can get COVID-19 from them? So that, we have not heard of any cases of that occurring in Colleton County, and we're in touch with our emergency support function 17 is Animal Services, and we're in touch with them every day. We're not aware of any cases of that, but the guidance we received a week ago was that there is some thought that you may be able to pass COVID-19 to your pet. There is and we've heard that several times. So I think that's just not true. And we also haven't heard of any cases of that occurring here in Colleton County. So my son goes back and forth from my home and his father's home, and it's okay for us to travel the road to either pick him up or drop him off.
Yes, that would be allowed.
I know some churches are having church Sunday. Is that even allowed? That's a good question.
Sure. The governor's order does not specifically restrict church services as constitutes an activity along those lines. We are asking people, and we do discourage people to get involved in events that would break those social distancing recommendations. We have appealed to church leaders and to church goers to set their safety in mind however you proceed, but there is no prohibition specifically for church.
Okay. And that was the next question as well. Are churches allowed to hold services on Easter Sunday, or is that against the law?
Yes, and again, there's no prohibition on that. We understand that with Easter Sunday coming, that's going to be popular. A lot of churches have taken the responsible step of doing some alternative type services, some internet services. Some are meeting in cars and public areas and so forth to try and get around that. We understand people want to get out, and we understand their need to want to get out and worship. But again, we ask everybody to do everything they can to mitigate the risk for their people.
Right. And that is all the questions I see. Do we have any more questions? Oh, one more question, Sean. Why is it that people owning private docks can go on the water and enjoy the waterways, but the average having to use the public docks cannot? So I guess, why are the public docks closed? And it sounds like, why are the public docks closed and private docks not closed?
And also, that would be a question for the governor's office and the Department of Natural Resources. We are simply enforcing the laws as they are handed to us from those entities.
Are the dumps open, and is that allowed under stay-at-home? So I'm guessing they're the convenience sites, I guess. So, yeah, they are open under their regular hours, so and that is allowed to travel there to take the trash to the convenience sites.
Correct.
Anyone? Do we have to carry paperwork around stating we are critical employees in our cars?
No, and we did address that. If you're going out and traveling for the reasons that are stipulated in the governor's orders, essential activities, if someone does ask you about it, simply tell the truth. Tell them you're going to work. Tell them you're going for whatever purpose. There's no requirement that you carry around any specific paperwork identifying as such.
The next question is, are there any ways to volunteer to help the elderly, children, and people in need who cannot do for themselves? Is there a link with things people can do? And I think you can help me with this, but I think, the Red Cross is largely based on volunteers, and they're fairly limited, and of course they're supporting this event, but you have to consider what the activities are that you'd be doing. If you're taking care of a patient that is a confirmed patient that's sick, you're certainly risking the chance of spreading the virus to you. If you go home, you have the risk of spreading it to your family, and that's what we're trying to avoid. I think the chief said it in his video conference a week ago. That flattening the curve, trying to keep the influx of patients from being high right now and spread it out and lower the number of cases that we have. I think that's why we're trying to do that. But did you want to comment on that?
Well, we also had some people call asking to volunteer over the last few weeks, and some of the agencies we put them in touch with have requirements on volunteers. It required like background checks and that type of thing, which required some time to have that process. But I mean, if they had something that they were interested in, we could definitely put them in touch with that if they want to call the EOC.
And in some cases, they may have, personal protective equipment or something that they can supply to you in those volunteer activities.
PPE is short everywhere. The hospital, we're short. I mean, every agency's trying to get personal protective equipment for their staff.
It is. And I think the state emergency management director said it on the conference call this morning that literally everyone in the world is looking for personal protective equipment. So we're having to share it with everyone across the globe. So good point. Any other questions? All right, one more question. Okay, so one of the questions is about HIPAA laws. The DNEC is, again, the lead agency on this, and they're limited in the amount of information they can share with the general public about who is a confirmed patient, who has been tested and received a positive test result. So they have shared, I think, that does narrow the range a bit to for us to be able to identify where the hotspots are in the state. And if you look around any of the urban areas, of course, that's where there seem to be a lot more cases than what we're experiencing here in Colleton County. But HIPAA is the Healthcare Portability and Protection Act, so that really limits the amount of protected health information, who it can be shared with, both by DHEC, by your healthcare provider, your physician, your physician's assistant, or whoever you're seeing, as well as our ambulance personnel. They're limited in who they can discuss your protected health information with. So. Anything you want to add to that? Where should supplies be donated? We currently do not have a donation warehouse or anything set up yet. It's just simply because the only thing we've identified that we're short of right now is the PPE that we've discussed. So certainly if we do set something up for that, that'll be announced on the county's website, so colletoncounty.org/coronavirus. Next question is, what are first responders doing to protect themselves? I'll let y'all answer that.
Well, we've issued out personal protective equipment, so you may see the responders coming. They'll be wearing a gown, which is a disposable type gown, face mask, and double gloves.
We've also gone to checking everybody's temperature when they come in, because we can't afford to get one person infected in there. It'd be like some mass exodus to everybody if that happens. So we take that kind of precaution.
We're doing the same thing. We're pre-screening all of our staff. Even the people in this building are pre-screening, because we share this building with 4 other agencies, and every staff member that comes in here is self-screening every morning.
So the next question is, how long is the stay-at-home order going to be in place?
I would assume that they're going to leave it in place till the numbers start dropping. They don't expect a peak on this thing until the end of April. So, once the numbers start dropping, maybe in May, or, it's all going to be based on the data that they're receiving on how the cases are spreading. And that's the way to prevent the disease, to stay away from the people.
Any more? Okay. Well, I think that's it. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate your questions. And as you can imagine, try to entertain some more of your questions. And hopefully we've cleared up some of the questions that have come out, particularly about the curfew and that sort of thing. I know we get a lot of calls on that. So if you need anything else, please reach out to our agency's business lines. And of course, remember to dial 911 for emergencies only. And thank you all very much for y'all's attention.